Good evening. My name is Kelly Carroll, and I have the pleasure of chairing Bennington's Community Policing Advisory Review Board. Today is Thursday, April 24th, and we are in the Bennington Firehouse multi-purpose room on the 3rd floor located at 130 River Street in Bennington. Thank you for being here, and I would like to ask my other board members to introduce themselves, starting with
Scott Richmond.
Kate Cost.
Scott Frost.
Vicki Lamprin.
Okay. And not with us tonight are Lindsay Brion and Jeff Vickers. At the moment, we do not have a select board liaison, but we will have one for the next meeting, and we welcome them. Next on the agenda is the town vision statement. Vicki, would you read that, please?
Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, and resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Vicki. Next, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the February 27th meeting minutes. So for the purposes of discussion, can I get a motion to accept the minutes of February 27th?
With that motion.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes?
Just throughout the entire packet, my name is spelled wrong. I'm Mr. Richards here and Mr. Richardson there.
I apologize for that. We will get that corrected.
Okay, that's all. Everything else is fine.
I didn't hear what that was.
His name is incorrect. Instead of Richmond, it's Richards or Richardson.
I apologize for that.
It's okay.
I'm sorry we didn't catch that.
That's fine.
Okay. So other than that, is there any other discussion on the minutes? And if not, can I get a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Next, we have on the agenda public comment. We did not have anybody sign up for public comment. Is there anybody here that would like to speak? Okay. All right. We do not have anyone that wishes to speak tonight. So first up on our agenda is our Bennington Police Department update with Chief Paul Doucette. And Chief, while you're coming up to the podium, I just want to send our prayers out and thoughts with the Milton Police Department, the community, and especially to Milton Police Department Officer Locke. Last night, for those of you that don't know, there was a routine emergency call, and we have to remember that all of our first responders put themselves in danger with every call. It was a house fire, and somebody opened fire on them, and Officer Locke was shot. So our thoughts are with the community on that. So, and it certainly does show an emphasis for the need for crisis clinicians to be embedded in the police department, and I'm grateful that we have them down here in Bennington and at the Vermont State Police. So welcome, Chief.
Thank you, and thank you for your thoughts on Sergeant Locke up in Milton. The situation that we're seeing far too much of in Vermont with law enforcement officers being shot. This is a situation, as you said, responding to really an agency assist to assist the fire department and ended up being shot upon arrival at the structure fire. Law enforcement officers took on gunfire there. So, as you said, our thoughts and prayers are with the family and with the police department. That's yet another law enforcement officer shot in the northern part of the state, which is concerning because usually what happens up north filters its way down south. If we look over to our west, Albany and Troy continue to have stabbings and shootings, it seems like on a regular basis. So with that being said, good evening everyone. Paul Doucette, Chief of Police and Public Safety Director for the town of Bennington. There's a lot going on at the police department, and I'm going to just give you a couple things that I want you to think about. When I met with Kelly and Kate to talk about the agenda here, I just want you all to know that we are really trying to fill our open positions within the police department. We currently have 6 open positions that need to be filled. We are watching what's going on around us in neighboring communities that have municipal law enforcement agencies. And, you know, we're watching the increases in benefits, and we're watching the increases in salary. It's, you know, it's something that we really need to work on with town staff, Mr. Hurd, and Mr. Monks, and our Human Resources Director, Michelle Johnson, and we need to get a handle on other agencies, get a handle on what's going on here in Bennington, and looking at what other agencies are doing to retain and recruit. We are in the process of going out and visiting college campuses. We have officers that have asked to be part of that team, and so we are, as graduations slowly begin approaching, we are going out to visit some college campuses in New York. Within an hour. We certainly do miss Southern Vermont College. We used to pull from Southern Vermont College on a regular basis. And, you know, it's tough. I know I sound like a broken record. You know, we're just not compensating or offering compensation like other communities are. We're not offering the benefits that other communities are. And we do a lot of work within the Bennington Police Department. You know, and I think that some of that needs to be taken into consideration. I know that the working agreement will be expiring June 30th of 2026. In conversations with Mr. Hurd, they do want to begin negotiating a new working agreement in September of 2025 to be prepared for June of 2026. But I'm hoping that we don't lose any more people between now and then, because we certainly just can't afford to do that. We've been doing fairly well with overtime because the officers are working 12-hour shifts. We are looking at their health and wellness. Officers are being sent up to United Counseling Service for mandatory counseling sessions. They are also, we've made it so that their schedules can afford them the opportunity to have every other weekend off, allowing for family time, and so we're doing our best with that. There's just other areas that we need to work on. So, with that being said, on a positive note, as far as staffing goes, our newest recruit that doesn't talk back, Grizzly, is currently completing week 5 at the Vermont Police Academy. And I did get a report this afternoon from Officer Morawski indicating that Grizzly is doing very well. Grizzly is learning all about tracking and is doing well. So, you know, Rob is just, it's amazing to talk to him. He's very upbeat and positive. Getting emails from him and updates from him certainly changes your day. It's like turning the frown upside down because things are going well for Officer Morawski and Grizzly currently. If you've been following, you know that we are nearing completion on our project with Scouts of America and a young man from New York who's working on his Eagle Scout project. Over on the Orchard Road property, if you were to drive by there, you'll see some of the obstacles are already out in the yard. Others are still inside that need to be finished, but we are really progressing, and that's a lot of volunteer hours. Our Public Works Department, as well as officers from the police department, have been over working on that. And of course, the scouts and the scout leaders have been here. So there's been a lot of time into that project and lots of progress being made there. And I fully anticipate that by mid-May, that project will be complete. And we would love, what we're thinking is about having an open house over there so that folks can come over and see our animal shelter, which has had quite a bit of use, and the canine training facility. We were really excited to work with the Scouts, and when we put the word out that we were going to open that up and allow training in the southern part of the state, we had other canine handlers and other members of their departments come down and assist with the project also, because it is going to save time and money. If the instructor comes to Bennington, as an example, we won't have to send our people to Pittsburgh. So that's basically an hour and 20 minutes up, an hour and 20 minutes back that they can actually be training, and we're not paying overtime, we're not putting miles on vehicles if we can do the training here. We're not going to do all the training in Bennington, but we were already training in Bennington on the former Southern Vermont College property. The hospital's been an amazing partner, allowing us to train up there, and that will continue. So we're not just going to train on the Orchard Road property. With that being said, we're certainly gearing up for the summer. We are starting to see some complaints about as the weather gets nicer and people open their windows, they hear vehicles that they perceive as speeding, and we are well aware of that. We are out and about conducting traffic enforcement. We just went last week, was almost a week-long distracted driving campaign where we were successful and issued a lot of Vermont civil violation complaints for distracted driving, i.e. cell phones. But we do know that as the weather gets nicer and people get on their motorcycles or their cars that they put away for the winter and they like to drive fast, and we feel like we're prepared for that. Monument Avenue, as I'm talking, really comes to mind. I know that some of the residents on Monument Avenue are frustrated and would prefer that the folks that are traveling up from North Adams and Williamstown area not use Monument Avenue as a cut through because the speed limit is 35. As I've told some of them, we don't control the route of travel that people take, and we do our best to put people where we can when time permits. So be prepared for that in case you hear complaints, and take my word for it, we're doing the best that we can with traffic enforcement. So other than that, I would be happy to entertain any questions that you may have about staffing, the canine program, or any concerns that you may be aware of.
So I have a comment and a question. So we have borrowed personally a traffic speed, I don't know what you call them, trailer thing. And we have it on Gage Street, and I'll tell you, it's made a huge difference, just the awareness. So thank you for what you are doing on that.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute?
Yeah.
I want to just share with you, I did not include it in my report because we don't have it yet, but because you brought it up, so we were just successful at no cost to the Bennington taxpayers. We have purchased an additional speed trailer, and this one's a little bit different. This one has LED lights that are going to flash, if people are going a certain mile an hour over the speed limit, and they are costly. They don't certainly look like much, right? But they are effective, and as a result of all of our efforts with our highway safety programs that we run, the state of Vermont did afford us an opportunity to obtain a grant. We did receive the grant, and we have ordered that speed cart. We anticipate that cart will be here by the end of May. It will be shipped over to Bowen Road. Shannon, who does vehicle maintenance, is going to work with us to assemble that, because it comes on a crate or a pallet in a crate, and so we'll be putting that together, and it's going to be a little bit different than what people are used to seeing, and this is very modern, and we're looking forward to utilizing that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It'll be fun to see, and maybe perhaps we can do something with the banner or what have you when that arrives, and because it's going to have different functions than the speed cart we currently have. And I know that there was a lot of debate when we went in front of the select board, with our budget, because we were seeking $10,000 for a speed cart. The first quote that we received was, unfortunately, it was over $10,000, but and Cam and I, Lieutenant Grandy and I worked our magic with the vendor, and we were able to get that where we needed to price-wise, and being able to send that, believe it or not, over to Bowen Road to the Public Works facility where they'll be able to use their forklift and take that off the truck. We were able to save the money that we needed to save to get it just under $10,000 to get it off the truck. Otherwise, we would have had to have a lift gate and all of this other stuff to have it delivered to the police department. But it just makes more sense to have Shannon Morse receive that over there and start assembling that. So we're excited about it, and I think the awareness piece is what is most important, and you'll see that on local roads. You won't see it on Route 7 or 279. You're going to see it on local roads here in Bennington, North Bennington, and Old Bennington. So again, sorry, I just wanted to make sure that people were aware that we are very conscientious about spending money, and when we can get grants, that's what we do.
So I had a question when you were talking a little bit about the crisis clinician, and we had talked about them embedded, and I'm probably going to get this mixed up, but I think it's New York had a story this week where after there's a traumatic incident, the officers now have 3 days of leave, and they're going to increase it to, I forget if it's 15 or 21. So do we have something like that? I know you said they go for counseling, for wellness counseling and everything, but if there is an unfortunate incident, do they get some time off?
If they're involved, for example, we have a policy that if you're involved in a use of force situation, then there is time off that is allowed for the officer. What we're doing here in Bennington is if we have a traumatic incident where multiple officers are affected, we have group sessions at the police department, or we've done some of them here to be away from the police department, and then what happens is people have the opportunity to follow up with, for example, United Counseling Service or EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, and we afford the people, the officers and civilian staff as well, including our communication staff, you can have that opportunity to go to counseling or speak with a crisis clinician while on duty. So we do allow for that. And if we had something that was very traumatic and people needed time off, we would find a way to make that work. I don't have a policy, a written policy that allows for that right now, but I'm sure that if someone came to me or the lieutenant or whomever and said, maybe they would go to Michelle Johnson's, our human resources director, and said, hey, I'm just not feeling right, we would find a way to make that work.
Yeah, because we've had some pretty tough stuff over the last couple of years. So, okay. That's all the questions I had. Is any other questions?
Just had a quick question for you, Paul. So do you think the problem with recruiting and retaining officers is purely compensation, or is it working environment, frustration on some of the incidents that happen around town, or can you not put a finger on any one thing?
I don't think it's any one thing, Scott. I think what we're seeing is, we're seeing people depart the Bennington Police Department and leaving where compensation is higher, where people are not having to pay for certain benefits, whereas we are paying for benefits here. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but at the same time, we have a high call volume here. I mean, we're 14,000 calls a year for service. When I first started 35 years ago, we were lucky if we had like 5,000 or 6,000. And so, over the years, that has certainly increased. We have not seen an increase in staff. dramatically. Maybe 1 or 2 positions we've added, but certainly not a lot. And my staff is tasked with a lot. I mean, on average, we arrest about 1,100 people a year. And stop and think, we also have other options. We have pre-charge, we have diversion, so there are other options, and we do take advantage of that when it's appropriate. I think that, here in Bennington, we have a minimum of 3 officers on, minimum, and I think honestly, as we have watched what has happened from 2021 to present, that should probably be at least 4. We should have a supervisor and 3 officers, and that supervisor should be bouncing from call to call, not having to take calls him or herself while there's other things going on. And unfortunately, due to staffing levels, that's what's happening. I think that overall, there's other things to look at. Housing still continues to be a problem. Folks, we have an employee that has looked at houses and has made offers and gets outbid, and it's not, I hate to keep using the term the old days, but in the old days you could drive around and look at a house, make an offer, and things might be great. And we have to work on that. We have to find suitable and affordable housing for new employees at the police department, but not just the police department. The hospital, the SVSU. I've talked to some of the principals. I've talked to staff at the hospital. Some of my employees live 45 minutes away. I think the furthest employee is about 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's a long day. It's a long day. When you're working a 12-hour shift, as an example, and then you're tacking on 1 hour each way. So I think it's little things like that. Can the town of Bennington solve that through a working agreement? No. But, we have to look at the community as a whole and say, what are we going to do to draw people here? And I don't want to go down the wrong path or upset anyone here or at home or any of you, but you find a doctor, a general practice doctor, you finally get to know the person, and 6 months later, they're gone and you're looking for somebody else. Try to find a dentist. And this isn't to beat up Bennington. I'm just saying, we got to figure out something, as far as housing goes and things like that. And there's a lot of positive things happening in Bennington, and people need to pay attention to that. When you look at the hospital here, they're about to soon break ground on the cancer center and doing an expansion there. We're going to have crisis beds here in Bennington. So there's just there's a lot of positive things happening that have to happen. Drive down Depot Street and finally seeing the renovations that are going on there to get people in Bennington and surrounding communities the help that they need. So I hope I didn't go too far down the rabbit hole here, but there's more than just salary and benefits, right? I'll just tell you, we've had candidates go up to the academy for testing and just not do well. The academy right now, you guys are going to have an opportunity to hear from the director of the police academy at your meeting in June. And he's a great guy. The academy is struggling. This academy class that's going to graduate in 5 or 6 weeks, they started with over 40 people. Now they're in the mid-20s. Yeah. That's a lot of drops. And they've had a situation where one person that started the academy for one agency has dropped that agency and gone with another agency, still at the academy. But we've not ever experienced that. And it's like, okay, well, we offer you this, you sign, and then while you're at the academy, you jump ship and go to another department. I don't know. I've never even heard of that until just recently. And I just think that we know, and when I say we, I speak for the entire department, we know that the community here, for the most part, supports the police department, supports the fire department, supports the hospital, and but we just have to find a way to get people here and keep them here. And I'm not saying it's all about money, but we need to look at shift differentials, we need to look at hourly rates, and again, we need to look at, what other agencies are offering for benefits, and we need to be able to match that somehow. And we struggle. We struggle to do that. And it's not the select board's fault, it's not Mr. Hurd's fault. I think we need to become a little more aggressive with our recruiting, which we're working on, and we need to be able to offer people positive situations, positive lifestyles here in Bennington and the surrounding areas to keep them here.
So what, if anything, can CPARB in the community do to help that?
Well, I think you guys are doing well in the sense that you get out and you're listening to folks, and you're getting feedback about the police department. For a while there, we had a situation where it was just a select few people that were speaking the loudest, and other people weren't speaking up. And I think with our meetings with, having law enforcement come quarterly to select board meetings, Jeannie Jenkins started that, and hearing what we're actually doing out in the community, and us promoting ourselves a little bit better. I think that just getting the word out that we definitely are trying to promote life safety here in Bennington, and promote positive relationships within the police department, and I think that you guys are doing what needs to be done. And look, if we're not cutting it, if we're making mistakes, if there are issues, we want to hear that too, because if we don't get that feedback, we can't make corrections. A couple of weeks ago, as an example, and if I go too far, you let me know. But a couple of weeks ago, we had the big protest at the Four Corners. That started out as something that was supposed to be large, and then we were told it was going to be smaller. And it turned into a situation where all 3 officers on the shift were there, and then we had to bring in 4 people. And we were fortunate that we were already working at the canine training yard. But since then, we've been able to work with this group and find out a little bit more about them. They're all decent people. They have certain beliefs, and everybody has that right. And we just need to be, we just need to be a little bit better prepared, because our position is we need to protect the people that are demonstrating from the people that are going by and rolling coal and splashing water because it was pouring out. And we did the best that we could on that particular day. We were worried that people were gonna complain about the police, but instead, and I'll get them to you for the June meeting, instead we received compliments. And so we were happy about that. We did try to have appropriate planning for that, and then when it rained and people were splashing, and it almost got to the point where it was a little out of hand. And then when people started walking into the street and pressing the walk button, when you press the walk button at the Four Corners, it holds up traffic in all directions. It just, and these are the things that we have to work on with folks. You have the right to assemble, you have the right to demonstrate, but you don't have the right to impede traffic and hold up traffic. And then on the flip side, people have the right to demonstrate, and they shouldn't be splashed by people that are driving too fast and spraying water on them, or revving up their diesel trucks and blowing black smoke all over people, completely unhealthy. And, but people are like, oh my gosh, this happened in Bennington. It happens at all of the demonstrations, and not just Bennington. And I think it's important that people understand that, whether you're part of that group or you're part of the group that doesn't believe in what that group's doing, you can assemble, you can say your piece, you can hold your signs, you can chant, as long as you're not disorderly. And and everybody has to get along. Everybody has a difference of opinion, right? That's what democracy is about.
And that's
right?
okay.
It is okay.
It's okay to not agree on everything, as long as it's peaceful. So, all right.
Thank you, Paul.
You're
Any
welcome.
other questions? Vicki? Scott? Okay. Well, please stay right there because
I'm right here.
Next up, we have community policing, that section on our agenda, and we're going to talk about this year's new experience camp, which
Absolutely.
is a great program.
I will tell you that our new experience camp this year, applications went out on Monday. They are currently available on the Bennington Police Department website, or you can stop by the Bennington Police Department and get an application. Same as previous years, there's a Phase 1 and a Phase 2. Phase 1 is for youth that are aged 11 to 13, and Phase 2 are for youth that are aged 14 and 15. So the Phase 1 group will meet July 7th through the 11th of this year. Phase 2 has an extra day tacked on. You're with us for 6 days instead of 5. And we will meet here on Sunday, July 6th, and we'll head to Maine for an amazing experience with some pretty high waves and whitewater rafting that will be done on Monday. So Phase 2 requires a little more work, especially for the parents that are out there listening. Phase 2 requires a little more work because we have pre-camp meetings, so the kids can get together, know each other, and we can do a little bit of team building before we get up on the high water release date. So we're really looking forward to New Experience Camp this year. And again, it's important to know that applications are currently available. I believe just in the last couple of days since they've been available, we have 30 slots that we will fill, and I know that at least 7 applications have come in already this week, and it's only Thursday. So we're hoping to have a really good time with the kids this year. We've deleted a few things and added some new things, and this camp does certainly get a lot of attention, and we're looking forward to a successful season.
And you're going to provide transportation to me?
Yes. So we had a situation where we came this close to having to cancel New Experience Camp this year, but I will throw a little shout out for Do 4 Tours. They have stepped up, and they will be providing transportation for the Phase 2 kids to Maine and back, and for the rest of the week. And Southwest Tech will be providing transportation on Tuesday when all of the kids go over to Southwest Tech and they get to try and participate in the different programs there. But Do 4 really stepped up and is going to make sure that our kids make it to their different destinations, and they're available for the entire week for transportation. So we're pleased to be building on that relationship that we have with them.
Any questions on New Experience Camp?
Very exciting.
Yeah.
I have one. Phase 2, you said was July 26th?
Nope, July 6th through the 11th. So we started day
Thank you.
early with those kids. There's some pre-stuff that they have to do. We get together so the kids get to know each other a little bit. And we talk about our expectations. They talk about their expectations, and it's really, Phase 2 is it's far more challenging than Phase 1, and a lot of our Phase 1 kids, come in, but Phase 2 does fill very quickly because we take 10 area youth in Phase 2, whereas we take 20 in Phase 1. Again, it's when you start getting up and doing. We used to take the kids down to Charlemont, Mass. Both groups, but we did different sections of the river, and then they certainly suggested that we try their sister business up in Maine, and once once we went up there and we saw how wild that was. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's teamwork. You got to paddle together. You have to listen. And the stories that the kids tell afterwards and how excited they are, it's really amazing. And we love building the relationships with the kids and laughing with them. And, on occasion, somebody falls out of the raft, you bring them back in, and we've never lost any kids, knock on wood. But it's certainly a lot of fun. It's a lot of challenges, and what I love to see the most too is after New Experience Camp is over, the kids are still wearing their hoodies, they're still wearing their T-shirts, and they come up and they want to talk to the officers, and so it's really it's great. It really is.
Good.
So.
Any other questions? Anyone? Comments? No. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you. I'll be here to answer any of your questions that you may have as we go throughout the meeting.
Thanks. Great. Next up on our agenda is a CPARB update, and there's a couple of things that we just wanted to get everybody up to speed on. The first thing we wanted to talk about is Vermont's Municipal Code of Ethics. There has been some confusion out on social media, some misinformation, and I'd just like to try to clarify a couple of things. The Municipal Code of Ethics is a state policy. It became effective January 1 of 2025. And there is an ethics violation complaint. However, that is available through the town. CPARB does not have anything to do with the municipal code of ethics and any violations on that. So I have seen some misinformation out there. Again, it is not CPARB. We are not investigative. We are advisory and review, and we are only geared towards the Bennington Police Department, whereas the Municipal Code of Ethics covers all people associated with the municipality, whether they're employed or on a board or things like that. So if anyone has any questions about that, please reach out to the town office, to the HR director or her designee. Mrs. Michelle Johnson takes care of all that, and she's wonderful. So she could answer any of the questions that you have. Secondly, as the chief said, Kate and I did meet with him, and there are going to be some changes to our participation level and things going on within the Bennington Police Department. And the first one of those will be our participation in panel interviews when there are officer promotional opportunities. And it's my understanding, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, but each candidate who goes in goes through the process, and then there is a panel interview, and CPARB will be one of the participants on the panel interview that goes through that. And our role will mostly be to talk about community policing. We won't be second guessing any law enforcement specifics, but so that's coming, and that will be starting, I believe, in May. I think we're going to be.
So I'll just address that with you very quickly. I didn't want to jump ahead. That's why I was saying. I'll just let you know that right now in the process there are 9 people that are seeking promotion within the Bennington Police Department, and they have submitted their resumes and their cover letters, and right now it's a lengthy process, and they're participating in the psychological evaluation to make sure that they are fit for duty to be a supervisor, and I anticipate by Saturday everyone will have completed that. It is a proctored exam, and they have to be monitored while they're taking that. No cell phones, no radios, no nothing. And that's what Lieutenant Grandy is doing right now. He's working with some of the folks to get them through the psychological part of that. And so once that is complete, they will all receive a project. And they'll also have to go through a panel interview, and we anticipate having one member from CPARB participate in the panel interviews, as well as a member from CPARB participating when it comes time to present projects. Project presentations will take place here at the firehouse. They'll have the opportunity to either use PowerPoint or make videos, or however they choose to do that, and they'll be scored on that. So we did, when I met with Kelly and Kate, I did ask if there was interest from CPARB, and we're looking forward to that and getting your input on the process as well. So thank you.
Any questions from the board? Just a couple of other yearly training suggestions that we're looking at working on. With the new budget year, there is $3,500 in the police department budget for training. And one thing that we're trying to get is some implicit bias training. And we're hoping that this will be a live training, and hopefully it will be not only open to members of CPARB, but other members of the select board and the other town offices and other boards and everything like that. So more to follow in that. Also, we'll be doing some observation and use of force training by the officers and communications. And when CPARB members first come on board, part of the initial training is BPD ride-alongs, and those will now be happening on an annual basis with each member of CPARB, so that it gives you a chance, number one, not only relationship building and understanding, but getting out into the community and seeing things firsthand and working with the officers. So I think there's some really great things coming for CPARB. Any questions or comments? Anything, Kate, you want to add?
I just wondered if there was something else in terms of training that people had thought about, because we had thrown that question out at our last meeting, and I just wondered if there was something that maybe we missed that we hadn't captured in terms of the kinds of training we would have. New members obviously will have the same training that all of us had in terms of open meeting law, the HR issues in terms of confidentiality, personnel, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, criminal justice.
Yeah, and the types of training that we had with BPD about law enforcement and those things. But I just wondered if there was something else, some gap in there that you identified that maybe would have been helpful in your initial training, or something that's come up for you since that would be helpful for the work that we do. Oh, okay.
A lot of what CPARB does is we try to get out into the community and we try to talk to people. Just to recap a little bit, when we first started, we had our first listening session in June of 23, I think it was. That was a community-wide listening session, and it was pretty successful. We had maybe, 25, 30 people that came. After that, we started having our listening sessions out and about throughout the community, trying to get out and listen to different people in a more informal setting and see where people's thoughts are. This past month, we went to Project Alliance, and during that, they did talk about our February Public Safety Forum. There were some very good comments about that, and it was very positively received. We also went to the Mount Anthony, in addition on Project Alliance, they were also talking about, they had situation table presentations, then stat presentations, and hopefully we'll be able to get them to come to a future CPARB meeting to do some presentation when they have some more statistics. And those are groups that look at cases locally to try to reduce the number of repeat calls, and they work together well, and I think they're both great programs. Situation Table is more Bennington County, whereas Ben Stat is more just Bennington. And they also gave an update on the hub where, as Chief Doucette said, down on Depot Street, there has been some construction going, and hopefully we'll be hearing some dates, for them opening hopefully later this year. We also went to the BBC Beans and Bagels and listened, to some of the people around the business community on thoughts with policing. It really wasn't a policing one, that one. It was more one of their networking ones, but it did give us an opportunity to get out and talk to some people.
We found out that they had an initiative to try to put cameras downtown. And, but it all fell through because they didn't have any money. When they didn't have any money for the cameras. And I'm not quite sure, maybe they thought that the police department would have money for cameras or the town, but they didn't have money for cameras. And they also hadn't anticipated the costs of staffing such a project in terms of somebody's got to review those to see what's going on. And so they've dropped that project. So there's still those concerns that they have around safety downtown, particularly now with the summer coming on. And but we don't know. We didn't hear that there was any other initiative that they were planning on having in terms of, because their concerns were shoplifting primarily or some kind of vandalism. And they hadn't come up with any initiative on their own for that, so.
And then we also went to the Mount Anthony Middle School Family Night Out. There were some small groups that were presenting, and one of them was the Mount Anthony Middle School school-based clinicians, and they were presenting on the impact of violence on students, what they've reported witnessing and have been involved in. And they went through 3 tiers of mental health support that they have available for students. The base layer is available to all students, and then they kind of go up in a pyramid to tier 2, where it's a little bit more one-on-one, to tier 3, where it's very specific to individuals, and they try to get ahead of things. And then we also, the second one that we listened to there was a group called the Choice Group, which is a student peer intervention group. And they spoke about current issues and solutions around that the students face. And they're a really great group, and I would really hope that we would be able to get them to come to CPARB. They have spoken at the select board meetings in the past, but they're really just a wonderful group of young people who are trying to be supportive of their peers and being part of solutions and helping people. And so, hey, I don't know if you want to add anything. I was very impressed with them.
Yeah, so was I. I mean, we had initially heard about them at the Project Alliance meeting that came up, that group came up. And then they had the family night at the middle school. And one of the things that struck me about this group Choice is that they analyzed the youth risk behavior survey to look at what kids were experiencing. And there were a couple of things that I wrote down that I really emphasized to me the importance of our having a listening session with Queer Connect, if at all possible, because there's a big difference for LGBTQ plus youth who self-harm, actually, a real high percentage. There were, they look particularly at females, and 36% of all females in this survey were self-harm, but 47% of LGBTQ plus self-harm. And they have a lower participation rate in terms of after-school programming, and they just, seemed to me that they were a group that had higher risk of concerns, whatever those may be, that it'd be important for us to know, just because they have spillover effects for safety, not just for that population, but potentially putting them at risk for victimization, which is obviously a big concern. So the wonderful part about the presentation, though, is they said that 92% of all kids that did the survey feel that there's an adult that can help them, which I thought was really wonderful. And, you know, in terms of our community supports here. So, but really wonderful group of young folks.
This is middle school?
The presentation was at the middle school. Choice apparently is at the high school and the middle school. The group that presented for that night was just from the middle school. So, yeah, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades.
Any additions to anything, anyone that, anything that you would like to add that has happened since the February meeting that any of the board members have gone out and experienced? Any questions about any of
The activities that Kelly and I participated in? No? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving right along, it brings us right to our listening sessions. And as we've said, there's a couple that we would like to get. Choice, which is that student peer intervention group. We did reach out last week, right before spring break, and hope to hear more back next week after they get back. So that one's hopefully pending and more to follow on that. Vicki, were you able to reach out to Queer Connect? Can we do it? Are they open? Can we do a listening? Okay. Maybe after the Pride Parade for maybe July or August?
Yeah.
Would be, because I know the parade's a busy time for them.
They're already in.
And they start, yeah.
They're already in the works to prepare for that.
Yeah. So, okay, so hopefully July or August. And what about the fire department?
So similar, we're pretty much in battle day mode from February until August. So we may be able to squeeze one of the last Wednesdays of the month in between truck checks and drills and meetings and everything. So we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
And if we can, in June or July, sneak it in on a Wednesday, then yes. But if not, it would have to be after Battle Day.
Okay. June or July would be great. June and July, and then July and August would be really good. Okay. All right. And for those of you that don't know, the CPARB listening sessions are just listening sessions where we go out to the community. There's no more than 3 of us because we don't break quorum. Usually there's just 1 or 2. There are no cameras. There's no police presence. Even when they've been invited, they have respectfully declined. And we just go out for very informal conversations about community policing and ideas for making Bennington better on that front, and improving relationships. So if anybody out there has an organization and they're interested in sitting with us, please reach out to one of the members of the board. We'll be more than happy to set that up. And Scott, anything on your end? Anything, maybe, I know we talked maybe about reaching out to the hospital. I would say whatever works for them, we could probably make work. We don't have, our next meeting isn't until June, so May's open. And it's just really a matter of just being able to get a couple of people that can go. And if you arrange it and you can arrange it when it's good for you, then reach out, and then 1 or 2 other board members could go. But it's, sometimes people think, well, it's just a listening session. But there's been a couple of things that people have mentioned that we've been able to bring back to the police department, and they're very open to things. One thing was just, I'll use Willowbrook. We had done, the board had, I wasn't at that one. The board had done a listening session at Willowbrook, and they said, you know, the police come through, but we'd like them to slow down a little bit and maybe say hello. And sometimes it's just like, hey, you know what, go down, roll the window down, wave, and stuff. Because sometimes it's just the little things that maybe you just need to have that open, you know, the awareness on. And that's a very minor example, but it also has a big impact with helping to build that trust, because if they start to meet people one-on-one, I'm a firm believer we have a lot more in common than we don't. So, anyway.
Yeah, I'm curious to contrast Gibbicks with the emergency room and hospital.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that they're only an hour long, right? So they're really informal. We don't take names, so it's all anonymous. And the other, I think, important thing is that we explain what community policing really is and how it's different from, how it differs from traditional law enforcement. And because of its discretion, because of its, the skill sets around communication and building relationship, that traditional law enforcement doesn't emphasize at all. And so it helps people understand that. But it also then explains what our role is in all of that, which a lot of folks really are still confused, even though we're in our third year, they're not quite sure what we do or don't do. And so it helps just clarify that as well.
Any other comments or concerns, questions on listening sessions, suggestions?
One of the questions that came up at our safety forum was what is expected for community, not policing, but surveillance. You know, what the community can do to help the police department. And I'm wondering if that's something that could be brought up at our listening sessions.
Yeah.
The do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
Because we certainly don't want to encourage any kind of vigilantism.
Right.
And, but to have that open communication where people see something and they can contact the police if they, you know, whatever that might be.
But it might be nice if Officer Doucette at some point could maybe have some kind of an outline that we could present for what the community could do from their standpoint.
So maybe a little handout for see something, say something kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of this.
Yeah, no.
I'm not going to give you all the details at the moment, but we are going to be starting a new program with local businesses, and we're ready. We're ready to move on this, so I think you're going to see that right at the beginning of May, but I'm not going to release the information here because then it'll get out. We want to have the opportunity to go into local businesses and meet with people and hand out things that we think that they should have available to them, just to encourage them to call the police. So we'll get into all that in May, or you'll know about it in May, but we'll talk about it in June, okay? So I don't want to give all that up right now, but Scott, you're heading in the right direction on that. You know, there are things that people should be doing, and then there are things that people should be doing to help their neighbor, let's say. And we'll get into all of that when we do the media release on that. But it's a great idea. We're already doing it.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns on the listening sessions? All right, then next is traffic safety data. And Kate, I'm going to ask you to summarize that.
Sure.
Please.
So this is in the packet. I apologize in advance. It should be the driver. I shouldn't have used the word offender, but I was searching in my brain for another word and didn't come up with it until just a couple nights ago. and so it really should be driver's sex, driver's age. Anyway, for those of you at home who have the packet, who have seen the packet, and for members of the board. I just want to clarify that. In terms of general information, this is from January to December 2023. There were a total number of 2,718 what I call cases. The average age of people that were stopped, was 40 years of age, and the age range was between 14 and 94 years of age. So the first table that you have, I just thought it would be helpful to see the breakdown by driver sex and driver age. And based on what we talked about at our last meeting, I broke this down into 4 categories. So we have 14 to 29 years of age, 30 to 49 years, 50 to 69 years, and then 70 to plus years. About 1,053 people are female, the remainder are male. There is another category. Some states allow drivers to indicate non-binary. Some allow drivers on their driver's license to just put an X and or other. So that's why you've got 3 people who don't identify as binary, as either male or female, okay? The majority of people are between 14 and 49, though there was a sizable group of people who were over 70 years old, okay? So that's table 1, just to get a sense of the demographics. I broke it down, even though we didn't ask for this, I thought it might be interesting to know, 1, the reason for the stop, and then the outcome of the stop. We talked about having this by age and by sex. So table 2 and table 3 are by age, by driver age. And so there's a moving violation, vehicle equipment, other, which I'm not quite sure, might have been, just helping somebody on the road, right? There's investigatory, and then there's externally generated. So those are the reasons for the stop. As you can see, the majority of people were for a moving violation. We had wondered whether or not there was any particular age group that might have had issues around vehicle equipment. I can't really say that there is. We still see that pattern of the 14 to 49 as being the majority of people for vehicle equipment and the majority of people for moving violation. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. I personally didn't see anything that struck me as unusual in there. Okay. Table 3 has got the outcome for the stop by driver age. Okay, so what we've got is we've got ticket, warning, arrest, and no action taken. Okay, as you can see, the majority of people got a warning rather than a ticket, though it's close. Then there were 1,262 people who got a ticket and 1,400 people who got a warning. Okay. And 54 people were arrested. Okay. Any questions about any of that? Any thoughts?
Seems pretty consistent with the 14 to 49.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I thought was a little interesting? There's probably not a lot of 14-year-old drivers, so it's probably 16 or 15.
Well, there were,
But-
that was the lowest age. It's like there weren't that many 94
Right.
age. But, yeah.
But I always thought the insurance rate said the under 25 were the highest risk. And so it was interesting. There's really only 15 years in that first category, then 20 years in the others. So,
Yep.
But anyway, I was just kind of curious about, where the under 25-year-olds, doesn't seem like, I was surprised the 30 to 49-year-old is really the biggest
Yeah.
population.
Yeah.
that get tickets.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know. There's some research out there about the impact of COVID on drivers' behavior. And the people who are now between 30 and 49 would have been more affected by that than the 14 to 29. But there's no way we would be able to tease that up. And then for driver's sex by reason of stop, the only thing that I found interesting on that one was the much higher proportion of males. And that was just interesting. I mean, I thought that they might be closer than that. But any questions on any of that? Anything that you find curious or interesting?
I wonder how the warnings work, whether they're as effective as a ticket or not. I mean, there's no way to tell from the data.
Well, if the
But-
outcome
but I
of
think
the
it's
stop,
generous,
yeah,
really
yeah.
generous of our police department to have so many warnings, which is such a break for people.
Okay, yeah, so, but you've jumped to the outcome of the stop. I was on the reason for the stop.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't want to jump ahead too far. Anybody have any questions about the reason for the stop? Because the moving violation obviously was much higher, which, but again, if we look at by age, it's not that much different than the age, so. Okay, and then the outcome of the stop, again, but these were very close. I mean, the ticket was, for the outcome of the stop for the ticket was 1,262. Outcome of the stop with warning was 1,399. And for the ticket, the male and female breakdown was much closer for the ticket than the warning. Okay. Any questions on that? No? Okay. That's my report.
Thank you for putting that together.
Sure.
We can maybe get the wording updated before we submit it.
Yeah, no, I will.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Next up on the agenda is the Fall 2025 Public Safety Forum. So as you recall, at our last meeting, we did a recap on our February meeting, or the forum, and we decided to look at possibly doing one in the fall. So there's a proposal for everyone just to look at, and hopefully we can agree on it and move forward and start taking it to the next step. So we're looking at Wednesday, November 5th, from 6 to 8 p.m. in the high school, or the right here in the firehouse. And we have reached out to a couple of possible panelists. So Kate, do you want to
Sure.
take it, or I can?
Yeah, no, I can, yeah, sure. So we've got confirmations from 4 individuals. Fred Bragdon from Vermont Public Defender Office, Robert Plunkett from the he's a state senator from our district. He is on the Committee for Institutions, Joint Legislative Justice, and Oversight Committee. And then Letha Cipriano, who is the Executive Director for the Center for Restorative Justice. Ralph Bennett, who is the Director of Housing and Corrections at Turning Point. And then we've invited individuals from Probation and Parole and United Counseling Services, and just waiting for confirmation as to who those folks might, if they can make it. So that would mean that we would have one more presenter than we had this fall. And so in February. And so we'll just have to be careful about timing, but thoughts on that, though?
So I believe the firehouse is booked every first Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
We checked on that, and we were told it wouldn't be
Yeah.
a problem.
Okay. I don't know when you checked on that, but I know that the chief of the fire department has requested having this room booked the first Wednesday of every month. I'm sure.
So the booking of the firehouse is my responsibility as well as others. And based on the fact that there were multiple requests for the use of this room, there was a very recent request from the fire chief to block out this room on the first Wednesday of every month. That is very recent. So it's difficult to have their department meetings. If this room is not available, that's when they meet, and so we would have to alter that. Whitney just blocked out the first Wednesday of each month. I'm going to say in the last week or so,
Yeah.
that request came in. So, it's, initially, it was not going to be a problem, but we were kind of pushing the firemen out of their own room here for their drills and training and
Okay.
things like that.
We'll come up with another alternative.
We'll have to come up with the second Wednesday or something to that effect.
We'll
But-
talk with our, yeah.
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 We can meet and discuss that, but again, it was very recent that request came in, so.
Okay. Well, we'll find an alternative.
I'm glad to see that we have a legislator, because that's where all the big questions were at
Yes.
the last meeting.
And we're fortunate because Senator Plunkett is also an assistant state's attorney. So,
So
Okay.
I'd like to speak on this if I could.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm having a really hard time with this forum and the way it's set up. When I look at Community Policing Advisory Review Board and the charge that the Select Board gave us, I'm trying to figure out, and I couldn't see it, how sentencing in the courts has anything to do with community policing, the charge that we were given by the Select Board. Opportunities and challenges in sentencing and successful completion of court orders, that's not in our purview either. Crime prevention, I had a hard time with, except it was connected to community policing. And I hope you'll at least consider my concern with how this is going about. It seems, I think we need to talk with our Select Board liaison about this when we get one, and maybe bring it to the Select Board itself before we go ahead and schedule all of this.
yeah, I can see your point. I did speak with Jim
Thank
Sullivan
you.
this morning about this,
Mhm.
and he was okay with it. I mean, he didn't have any concerns or anything like what you brought up, I think is very valid. I think that part of what CPARB is charged with is bringing the community together and getting communication out and getting some stakeholders together. So I think it's a natural flow from our second one, or our first one that we had, but it's certainly worth discussing.
Thank you for listening and giving me the
Why wouldn't I?
opportunity to voice my concerns. Because I really think we're getting out of our lane by doing this. And if we want to make changes as far as, and that's not here, but laws and how people are sentenced and, do they complete their sentencing, that to me would be more of a personal activity to pursue rather than CPARB being involved in that.
I guess the way I was thinking about it had to do with the community panels that I participate on with the Center for Restorative Justice. Because we get the court orders about what that's how they present to us, and then we create with them, with the offender, a contract that assists them to understand the harm that they've done to the community by their actions and how to repair that harm. And that's a part of their sentencing that they receive, that they have to come before a CRJ for these community panels. And so when I was thinking of this sentencing, I was thinking of how, when someone is sentenced, how that affects the community, and whether or not they are just released on their own recognizance, or whether or not they go before somebody like CRJ, how that may affect their housing, which is why we wanted to have Turning Point there, because now that they have what they're calling a recovery house. And so it affects resources that are available in the community and how those resources are used. So that's how I was thinking about this, rather than, and there were so many questions about sentencing at our last public forum. So anyway, but I appreciate.
Thank you, because
sharing that.
I'm having a hard time with this.
Yeah, I don't think there's an effort to change any laws.
Yeah.
I think
No,
there's
that-
just an effort to get the communication out. And when I look at our resolution, fostering collaborative efforts within the community conducive to hearing all voices, and I just think that, working in partnership, I think it does. I don't think we're making any changes, but we're giving people an opportunity to talk about how their agencies all interact in the spirit of public safety and community policing. And, the thing that they, my big takeaway from the last time was all the collaboration between UCS and VSP and BPD and the state's attorney's office and all the other alphabet soup. And I think that having these forums and having that opportunity for them to talk, and not only them, but there were some people in the that attended that actually had a chance to ask questions that maybe wouldn't have a chance to do that. So I think it brings people together. So I do, but I can see your concern about trying to change laws, but it's more of an education information.
But it wasn't my comment, and I'm glad that you picked up on that. I don't know how CPARB, in the charge that we were given, can fit into challenges in sentencing of folks. That's out of our, I have no idea. I would never even presume to put myself in that position, because that's not who I am, and that's not, to my understanding, what this board should be doing.
The full piece is to educate and inform the community on the current best practice efforts, opportunities and challenges in sentencing, and then, so this is about our being able to inform the community, because what we do get is we get complaints, or whether they're formal or informal, through the website or whatever, to about this sort of catch and release. And that somehow that's the responsibility or the purview of the police department, when in fact it's about the courts. And so that's what I was seeing as, that's why that was there. We can change, this isn't going to happen until next fall.
Right.
And so there's, again, this is the first time we're bringing the proposal to you. So this is all open to change.
Well, yes, and that's why I'm speaking up, because...
Yeah, no, and that's why we appreciate that.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
But if we think of it as awareness, creating awareness, so people have more respect for the police department, that, they're doing their job, but people are being released because of our laws. I mean, we have to have some kind of awareness, and we're in the perfect
I think most of
spot
us
to-
are aware of that.
I wasn't aware of the laws until the last forum, that the laws were, I thought it was like courts is a problem, but it's the laws
No,
and the
it's always-
legislators.
Yep,
Yeah.
the judges have to do what the law says, just like I have to do what the law says. I can't go down Main Street at 60 and not expect to get a big fat ticket. Thank you. As we work on this, I really want to push some of these things, because it all just sounds to me that these things we can't affect, they are laws. However, and I think what you might have picked up on, is if we're not happy or want to see something different, then that's up to us as individuals to go to our legislators and say, hey, this is not working here, for whatever reason it is, or to go to our chief and say, hey, chief, this is this law. What can I do as a person, not as CPARB? How can I help to change these laws? That, we're talking about the effects of these laws.
And also, if you recall, when we did the first forum, when we originally started, we had quite a list of panelists that we had to cut almost in half, right? And these are the people that we couldn't fit in the first one. So my feeling, honestly, is if you don't do it, you're not giving the full voice. You're just saying, hey, here's one side. You're not giving that full picture or that full opportunity. And I did get questioned from people afterwards that wanted to know why the public defender's office wasn't at the forum. And I told them it was simply because we had 9 or 10 people. We couldn't do it. It was really tight with 5. But we want to do that in the fall. And maybe the sentencing terminology or something, maybe it's like the next phase or it's continuation of. But, I mean, community policing is a collaboration between the police and the community that helps identify and solve community problems. It requires the community members voice their concerns, contribute advice, and that they be active participants in the process of problem solving. I think this does fall under our charge right from the resolution. No problem changing the terminology or the wording or the phrasing, but I really would hate to see the whole thing get scrapped and not give those, other people the opportunity to speak and to get that education out to the community.
So I'll just pipe in a little bit. Well-received point. Understand your point, but from the police chief and the law enforcement perspective, we have to look at the entire criminal justice system. These people that you're inviting, perhaps for the fall, are all part of the criminal justice system. And it's not just the police, it's not just the prosecutor and the court. There's multiple other avenues that could be gone down if, in fact, the system worked correctly. And I think it's important that we educate people on the entire criminal justice system and not just the few folks that were here the last time. And we need to understand what other programs perhaps UCS has. We've heard from Center for Restorative Justice, but not everybody listens. Not everybody understands the diversion program and the fact that we're not trying to create criminal records for people. We're trying to get people to get assistance, get help, get guidance that they need, and that we're really trying to exhaust all of these things before we send somebody to jail for 10 days or 30 days or whatever the situation may be. And I think it's important that we hear from, again, the entire criminal justice system, and these folks all play a role in that. There are folks that are mandated to go to counseling before sentencing. Their public defender or their private attorney, that might be somebody else that you want to bring on. It would be great to hear from Fred Bragdon as a public defender, but then find someone that also represents, paying clients. And I'm not saying people that have a public defender don't pay, because there is a fee, so let me be clear on that. But there are other options, and we should hear again from the entire criminal justice system. For the longest time, people thought, well, the police aren't doing their job. Oh, the prosecutor's office isn't doing their job. Oh, the judges suck, they're terrible. But we have to understand from our legislators' perspective the laws that are in place and why the judges come out with some of the rulings and some of the decisions that are made. It would be wonderful to get a judge in here. We don't have anybody local that's currently sitting. We'd have to invite someone, and they'd have to stay late or what have you. But the bottom line is, it would be great to have a judge sit and say, hey, these are sentencing guidelines that we have. On the federal side of things, they have more significant sentencing guidelines than a state judge. So there's a whole big criminal justice system out there, and to just hear from a few people and then shut it down, I don't think is fair to the rest of the system. I guess that's my point. And I understand your point, and like I said, well received, but I think that there are so many other aspects that are involved in the criminal justice system. People in the community need to hear all of that and understand some of the obstacles and some of the positive things that the police have on their side when it comes to investigating crimes and prosecuting people, or, like I said, sending them off to diversion. So, I was hoping that we would have the next panel, and then in the spring, of 2026, that we have even more. Just because I think that it's important that we hear, and I've said this already, that we hear from the entire criminal justice, folks that are involved in the entire criminal justice system, not just the few of us that were here the last time. So, thank you.
So any more discussion? Scott, anything to add?
Well, I understand her issues with what we're doing, but I think if you change the name of the description or whatever of what this is, I don't really look at this as CPARB trying to make any changes or do anything other than be informed. The last session that we had, the forum, was just an amazing time to learn for me. I sat up there in the crowd and listened to the people up here speak and got a completely different viewpoint of what I had when I walked in the room. And when we come into a room full of these kind of people, I'm expecting the same thing. I'm not expecting that I'm going to stand up here and tell these people how to do things and we should be changing things the way that CPARB wants them to be. I think that we would sit back there, listen to what they're saying, and have a better idea and a better understanding of what we should be doing to be a board member on CPARB. And if we get a judge in here and legislators in here, I think that they would give us an even better understanding of what we should be doing sitting up at this table. So I do hear your concerns, but to me, it's not about change. It's about learning, educating myself, listening to what these people have to say, and then taking that information and being better at what we're doing up here with it. So that's my take on it.
Vicki, you want to add anything? Scott?
I agree. We're where we are.
All right. So, I guess the next steps would be to get a motion to go forward with it, to see if we can change the date with the location of the room, CAT TV, and our panelists for November 6th. Is that what we had? Is that? Yes, no? Okay, so can I get a motion to proceed with the forum? And
I'll make a motion to proceed with the forum, with the change date.
okay. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, abstentions? Okay, so passed 4-1 to 0. Thank you. Let me see. Next up on the agenda is it announcements?
Upcoming agenda items.
Oh, upcoming agenda items. What did I do with my page 2? Upcoming agenda items. The first agenda item that's going to happen next month is going to be the reorganization of the board. And then the second thing that I have on the agenda, and we'll see what if anybody else wants to add to that, as the chief said, the director from the Vermont State Police Academy will be here to speak about Act 56. And Act 56 is an act relating to the professional regulation of law enforcement officers by the Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council. It's basically Vermont's oversight process for internal affairs for law enforcement. It investigates misconduct. There's categories of offenses, timeframes, processes for resolution, and when warranted, accountability all the way up to and including permanent revocation of certification. Any appeal has to go to the Vermont Supreme Court. He will be here talking about Act 56, which is the oversight and accountability portion of Vermont. And I think that he's going to be, I don't know his name. I don't know if you want to share that, Chief.
Sure.
I should probably have found that out soon. I just would call him the director.
It'll be Christopher Raquel. He's the director of the police academy. He'll present to you a PowerPoint presentation followed by a question and answer session. And then what I sent him in an email is that more than likely he would be at the beginning of the agenda because you have to remember that he will have to drive back, and so he is interested in coming down, and we'll finalize all of that in coming weeks so that we can put that on our agenda when we meet in May to set June's agenda. So.
Is there anything else that anyone would like to add to upcoming agenda items? Okay. Next up is announcements, just a couple of quick announcements. There are several committee and commission openings around the town. So if you are interested, please submit a letter of interest to Stu Hurd, and the deadline for that is May 9th. Green Up Day is coming. That is the first Saturday in May. If you have any questions, please reach out to the town office.
Excuse me, I do have one, and I apologize. Probably we should have the Public Safety Forum back on the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the change of date, and hopefully we'll still be able to meet here for that. But it may impact, even though we're far out in terms of timing, it may impact the people that have already committed.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
This is the Thursday.
Just save the date. National Night Out is Tuesday, August 5th. And then also for those of you that are interested in the 250th celebration, please check out Bennington250.org. That's all I had for announcements. Anyone else have anything you want to do? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions. Thank you very much. The next meeting will be Thursday, June 26th at 6 p.m. right here in the third floor multipurpose room at the Firehouse on River Street. Thank you. Have a great night.